Mandela Day. It is a day where, again, we will be in courts across the country. A lot is happening inside those courts this week, and also, because it is Mandela Day, the unveiling of two statues. We'll take you live to Ono shortly for the unveiling of the second, and the president, we understand, right now arriving in Ono for that unveiling. We'll bring it to you live if we can, and you can see this memory, this tribute to the man known as the father of the nation. Remember, it's almost 10 years since Madiba's passing. In fact, let's skip the headlines and take you right now live to Ono.
Not guilty, mother.
You're quite correct, Francis. The president has just arrived. He will be unveiling this statue. It is the second one since he unveiled the one in Umtata. This will be the statue really that will depict Madiba in his early life, and then of course in the village where he grew up. As you can see, he's cutting the ribbon right there. Of course, the granddaughter of Nelson Mandela, Ndilega, is also in town. Well, Francis, I'm sure you'd recall one of the things that happened when Nelson Mandela appeared, in that court. One of the regalia that he was wearing was the traditional attire. And I think we've come back to where Madiba started from, in this village. Let's just listen.
This year marks the first anniversary of the passing of the father of our nation, the tribal icon Nelson Mandela.
The granddaughter of Nelson Mandela there, having just read the plaque, basically saying it was unveiled by the current president, President Nelson Mandela. You can see the premier, the daughter, and the president, and of course the Minister of Sport. So they are taking a picture, and then of course they are very happy and smiling. Well, from here, Francis, they are moving to the official proceedings at the tent where the president will obviously deliver the speech. Right now, I think they've just asked that he take the photo all by himself. Remember, he is the one who is unveiling all of this. Indeed, this day is very important in South Africa, not only actually in South Africa, because it was declared in 2009 by the United Nations General Assembly as the Nelson Mandela Day, and then of course to mark his contribution to peace and justice. As we know, he is a global icon, Francis.
This is amazing that the world has a global icon. And South Africans are in extreme poverty. Many families in Qunu are struggling to make ends meet. I'm wondering right now, as I'm looking at this statue, how much did it cost? Ramaphosa is fully aware that people are still struggling to make ends meet, struggling to recover from his imposed COVID restrictions that closed a lot of businesses. A lot of people have been kicked out of their jobs. Fuel hikes have gone up by more than 50%. Food has gone up by more than 50% on average. People are really battling to make ends meet. And yet this government is going around opening up statues to create an impression to the world that we are idol worshippers. Far from it. Many South Africans, like myself, reject this type of idol worship with the contempt that it actually deserves. Nelson Mandela may have fought for the freedom of this country. We have to give credit to where he's due, but he's not the only one. As I always maintain, if anybody fought for the freedom of this country, it is us who never placed a foot in jail. We literally fought for Nelson Mandela's freedom, as Oliver Tambo once said, that a prisoner is not in a position to negotiate with those who are free. It is us who fought for Nelson Mandela's freedom. We put the necessary pressure on the government of the day with the help of Europe and America through sanctions to release him from jail. Now, obviously, as things stand, from 1994 when Nelson Mandela became a president up to this day, South Africa has not made progress. Rather, it has regressed astronomically. Now, what we wanted was freedom, not only what we call political freedom, but also economic freedom. And it is clear to me today that with the African National Congress, which is Nelson Mandela's organization to which President Ramaphosa belongs, his marriage with a communist party, South Africa will never achieve economic freedom because communism is not an ideology that is espoused by many of the powerful nations in the world. And therefore, South Africa's economy will always be sabotaged. And for me, it is rather remarkable that our leaders do not see this. I guess it makes one to understand why Thabo Mbeki, for an example, did not expressly participate. As a matter of fact, he resigned publicly as his membership as a communist party. Now, this is very disappointing that South Africa and the world are celebrating Nelson Mandela's birthday. Nelson Mandela is dead. We do not celebrate the dead. Half of South Africa, if not more than that. As a matter of fact, the last check, more than 80% of people in South Africa call themselves Christians. But yet the African National Congress has this tendency of imposing things like this, of idol worship, in the similitude as they've passed so many regulations in Parliament, unbeknown to us who believe in God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. They've passed so many regulations that are anti that very God. So it's time that we begin to make videos of this nature to arrest this misbehavior in our name, because this is really misconduct and misbehavior. None of these statues, I mean, there are gigantic statues of Nelson Mandela at Mahlambandlov, which is the Union Buildings, Sentin. Everywhere you go, almost every city in the country wants to have a street by the name Nelson Mandela. How does this benefit us? Except that this is nothing but idolatry. South Africa is getting poorer and poorer. And all of this because of the policies that have been introduced since Nelson Mandela has been a president. We have at some point in time have to wake up and perform a review of what is it that Nelson Mandela actually means to South Africans. Yeah, we can have all these nice speeches, but I'm talking about when the tire meets, or rather the rubber meets the tire. What does it mean for South Africans? Are South Africans better than they were during apartheid? The answer to that, many South Africans of my age group will tell you the answer to that is an immediate no. There's a lot of poverty in South Africa. There is close to 50% of youth unemployment. And I'm told that this is a conservative estimate. South Africa has become the rape capital of the world. South Africa's crime is right through the ceiling and through the roof. There is economic sabotages all over the place. There's lawlessness everywhere. There is corruption that cannot be measured. Under the watch of this African National Congress, all of these people that you see here wearing suits, they are nothing but glorified corruption perpetrators, nothing else. Ramaphosa himself is implicated in Palapala Farm, a scandal which he has recently been exonerated by a public protector, and the judiciary, which clearly, according to a now deceased former minister, that judiciary is captured by Ramaphosa. These are not my words. It's the former minister, just forgot her name, Joe Matt Peterson. That's the name of the minister. So we have to ask ourselves a lot of questions. Next year is elections. That is why Ramaphosa is doing things of this nature. It's not a mistake, because black people are very sentimental. They use a lot of emotions. These things go a long way to them, but at the end of the day, they are long suffering. They are going to endure another 4 years of Ramaphosa at the helm whilst they are going through poverty. It's high time that this nonsense is brought to an end. This ruling party is literally arrested, obviously not physically, meaning they are taken out of power. When I say arrested, I mean we arrest them through our vote by bringing them out of power, because they are doing absolutely nothing. These ceremonies do not put bread on anybody's table. If, for an example, you have more than 40% youth unemployment, that's a disaster. That is a disaster. Nevertheless, you can give me your views down below. What do you think? Do you think that South Africa needs these statues?